Hey everybody, welcome back out to the range. Today I have a fun gun that I'm going to be shooting and talking about. I have the venerable Sig P229 chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson, and I also have a 357 Sig barrel for it. So we're going to be talking about 40 Smith & Wesson, 357 Sig, and a little bit about this cool little weapon. Let's go. So today we're going to be talking about the Sig P229, and it is chambered. The ones that I have is chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson, and you can also get a drop-in barrel for 357 Sig. And today we're going to be talking just a little bit about this gun. The design for this gun came out around 1994, and it was originally designed around, actually it came out in 1992, and it was originally designed around the 40 Smith & Wesson cartridge, which had recently been adopted by the FBI. Remember, this is just a few short years after the Miami-Dade shootout, where the FBI decided that 9mm was underperforming. They needed a more powerful cartridge. They came out with the 10mm. Shortly after that, they decided that that was too powerful, so they came out with the 40 Smith & Wesson. And this was designed to be a duty weapon for law enforcement agencies, specifically in the United States, to be shot in 40 Smith & Wesson. Well, Sig, sort of outmaneuvered by Glock and Smith & Wesson with the 40 Smith & Wesson, they decided to come out with their own cartridge that tried to mimic power of the 357 Magnum, and they came up with the 357 Sig cartridge. Let's take a quick and closer look up at this gun and the cartridges. Okay, so this is what we have for the gun. This is the Sig P229. This is the original barrel that came with it. You see it has some use. It's a police trade-in. Pretty kind of a cool gun that you can pick up that are coming available in the market from used sources like police that are switching to more modern striker-fired guns. But this gun is still pretty awesome. Maybe a little bit thicker, but man, are these things reliable. I've just been super impressed. Pick this gun up and it just shoots. There's no problems with it. You can get them for a lot cheaper than they'd normally be because they're coming out used, but you don't really have to do anything with them. Unlike many modern guns that are coming out for the first time that don't run, cue in the SFAR, cue in the Sig, or sorry, the Smith & Wesson 10mm. And a lot of guns that have had some problems. The Springfield Armory, Prodigy, so on and so forth. So let's just, so over here on the left, we have the 357 Sig bullet, and over here on the right, we have 357 Sig, and over on the left, we have the 40 Smith & Wesson. You can see the 357 Sig is a bottleneck cartridge. What I'm going to be shooting today is some Blazer Brass 180 grain FMJ and some Remington 357 Sig 125 grain. It's a much smaller diameter. It's 9mm versus 10mm in diameter, and a lot lighter. And so we're just going to do some testing with our lab radar, and we're going to compare energy, because that's an accurate comparison when you're talking about bullet weights and bullet velocities and things like that. And we'll just take a look at some other things and how this thing runs. So let's get to shooting. Okay, so first up I have the 357 Sig barrel in the gun. So I'll start off with shooting that. I've just got about 8 rounds in here of that Remington UMC ammo. And we'll just take a look at what we get for velocities on this. This gun is pretty cool. It is a double action, single action. It does have a decocker that you can decock the system. It does not have a safety, so the way that you carry this is with a round in the chamber and decocked, and it's your double action trigger pull that's a little bit heavier than your single action, and that keeps you safe from negligent discharges. So let's start off in double action. Feel that pull. 1301, 1306. We're now in single action. 1313. 1320. 1316. 1310. 1317. 1321. And 1324. Let's just get our add-ups from the lab radar here. So for an average, overall average for those 8 rounds, we have an average of 1316 feet per second with a standard deviation of 5.9, extreme spread of 18, a high of 1324, and a low of 1306. Pretty consistent rounds over those 8 shots. And I'll flash up on the screen what the energy is for this, and then we'll compare it now to the 40 Smith & Wesson. I'll have to do a quick barrel change. Doesn't take long, it's just through the normal slide takedown process. Okay, so to take this gun down, you just drop the mag out of the platform, lock the slide black. There's a little takedown lever that you just twist down to the bottom, move slide forward, and it just slides right off. This is the exact same way that you'd be cleaning this gun. So just really, there's the recoil spring and guide rod. This is the barrel. Isn't that interesting? And then you just reassemble your gun. All right, you're not modifying or doing anything like that. So you just reassemble it. Put the guide rod back in. Put the slide back on. Back slide stop. Lift up the takedown lever. And there you are. And by Disney magic and other things like that, Shazam, you're now ready to shoot the 40 Smith & Wesson bullets. All right, so now we have the gun chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson. Got our new group set up with the lab radar. Let's get to shooting. I actually have here a Mech-Gar extended magazine that I was able to purchase instead of the normal 12 rounds and 40 or 357 Sig. This has 14 rounds. Still seeing if it all works, but yeah. 972, 990, 980, 964, 981, 965, 983, and 992. I wouldn't exactly call that hot Smith & Wesson, but I don't know that you could call this hot 357 Sig either. So I'm guessing that they're a fair enough comparison. One of the challenges in 357 Sig is that finding the right ammunition or the same ammunition in 40 Smith & Wesson, at least these days, can sometimes be tricky. So let's just take a quick look at the add-up side and see what we got with the 40 Smith & Wesson. So for an average, we got 979, a high of 992, a low of 934, standard deviation of 10.5, and we had 8 shots. So I'll put in the comments here, or not in the comments, I'll put in a tag on this. I'll also drop in what the energy foot pounds are so that we can have a comparison between 357 Sig and the 40 Smith & Wesson. Next thing I want to do is shoot a couple of groups. I am not a great group shooter with iron sights. Especially these are a little bit thicker iron sights, but I just want to see what our point of impact, point of aim shift is when we have the 40 Smith & Wesson barrel in versus 357 Sig. That could be also something to consider on which of these barrels that you want to run if you're running iron sights. Which line up better with your sights. Okay, so next up we have targets. I'm going to shoot the target on the left with the 40 Smith & Wesson. I still have that barrel in. You can tell it's that barrel, at least for me, because it still has these marks from its use. Versus the 357 Sig barrel is a pretty new barrel. So I've got eight shots that I'm going to do, and we're just going to see what my practical accuracy is. Again, my accuracy versus your accuracy are going to be really different. Haven't really shot much with this gun and much with these sights. Those are all my excuses, but we're just going to see what we can do with the two things and see if we see any difference in the groups that we get with the shots. All right, so let's just drop that other barrel in. We'll move this one out of the way. Reassemble the gun. Slide lock back, flip up the takedown lever, and over here I've got 8 rounds. Over here I've got 8 rounds of the 357 Sig. and we'll see how we do on accuracy. All right, I'm not sure that we can take much down other than I think there's a little bit of drifting, and I noticed that when I was shooting at 25 yards the other day. So we'll just take a little bit of a discussion. All right, let's just take a look. I just want to remind you that over here on the right is the 357 Sig. Over here on the left is the 40 Smith & Wesson. These aren't great groups, but these are about the groups that I can do at about 7 yards. I've done better, but certainly with iron sights and how thick those sights are, that's about what the accuracy I'm going to do, unless I'm bench rested or really taking my time on it. But you can see that the group is somewhat to the left, and over here versus the one over here is still to the left. So I could probably afford to drift my sight, but I think the group is significantly shifted down. I mean, certainly there are bullets that land over here in that same range, but more of the group is down. It's possible I for sure pulled that one, and for sure pulled that one, and then maybe the groups look very similar. I don't know, but I didn't pull any up there. So really interesting what you see on the gun. Certainly see the bigger holes from the 40 and the smaller holes from the 357 Sig, which is the same size as 9mm. Okay, so let's just finish up with the review of the Sig P229. So just for comparison, I have a couple of other guns out just so that you can tell the difference in the grip widths. This is the Shadow Systems MR920, which is roughly equivalent to a Glock 19. So it's very similar sort of in size and dimensions to the Glock 19, about the same slide length. Maybe a little bit wider, but again, this is chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson. This is chambered in 9mm. Here's a CC P01 that you can just, take for comparison. And again, maybe just very similar sizes, a little bit thicker up here, and I'm sure that's related to the being made for the 40 Smith & Wesson and 357 Sig. So let me know what you think. Please put it in the comments below. When we shot 40 Smith & Wesson versus 357 Sig, the 357 Sig almost had 100 energy foot-pounds more than the 40 Smith & Wesson. Now, granted, that was probably weak 40 Smith & Wesson, but I don't think that was anything special 357 Sig either. So let me know what you think. What would you choose? What would you carry? 357 Sig, 9mm, 40 Smith & Wesson. Again, this is 12 rounds normal, and this is 15, and this is 15 rounds normal. So those 3 extra rounds, do they make a difference for you? Do they not? Certainly this does not have an optics cut in it at the moment. I'll leave that for another day, but let me know what you think about the venerable Sig P229. Please put it in the comments below, and please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much.